Hello, everyone. Renee Funk here with the Funk Collection, brokered by eXp Realty. We're coming to you with Funk Collection live on Fridays. Today is like none other. Super excited because we have a special announcement to make and an awesome new partner who's linking arms with us here at eXp Realty. But first, Ben Lobby. Hi, Ben.
Hi. Isn't this like your first or second live with the Funk Set 11?
This is number 3.
Is it number 3?
So our third episode of the Funk Collection live on Fridays, right? So third episode.
I feel special.
you both should, and I'm so excited to introduce our guest today. I had the pleasure to get to know our guest a little bit more recently in Dallas. So when you both agreed, I said, yes, I'm so excited. So Ben, what's going on?
Well, I'm excited to introduce Mr. Jacob Fowler, who is joining or has now joined us at eXp Realty. He did make it out to Dallas, which was a wonderful time. We all got to hang out, party, learn a lot about growing teams and building our businesses. And yeah, Jacob, welcome to eXp.
Thank you.
Woo-hoo. Jacob, we're so super excited. All right. So for the only a couple who may not have had a chance to learn more about you, we have to start with, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what market you're in? Share with us all the awesomeness.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jacob Fowler. I live here in Portland, Oregon. I currently work both the Oregon and Washington markets. I go as far north as Seattle and as far south as Salem. So cover a pretty wide territory here. I've been in the business since 2013, and I'm really excited to get started with eXp.
I love it. And I think I might have mentioned this when we were in Dallas. You guys can correct me if I didn't, but you all have the best wine. Let's get down to what's important.
We have great wine country.
You have an amazing wine country. All right. So what you mentioned your areas that you specialize in. Let's go right to it. What aspects about eXp Realty drew you to join us?
I've thought a lot about this question since I got your email and how to dive into it without taking up too much time, because I feel like there's so many different pieces that went into making the decision. I think I can kind of summarize it into two big pieces that make up all the little pieces. The first one being financial. There's a lot of financial incentive as far as, for me, working in multiple states, only paying one cap nationwide is phenomenal. I mean, that's instantly a savings of over $20,000 a year for me. Not even taking into account the piece of revenue share and stock and things like that where I can make more money. So the financial side of things was very important. And the second biggest thing for me came down to, I feel like 90% of the brokerages I talked to, and even the previous brokerage I was with, they're very much stuck in the past. Watching, whether we like it or not, real estate's evolving every day. I feel like COVID has possibly pushed that a little harder, a little faster as far as big changes we're seeing industry-wide. And I was really drawn to a company, to a brokerage that is ran by agents that are still in the business, still in production. They actually know what's happening around them, and they're not just digging their heels in saying, oh, well, they can't do this without us. We're always going to be safe. Being a part of a business that's actually going to evolve and change and survive the changes that are coming was very important.
That's some great insight.
I was looking at you, Ben, because I thought you were processing there.
Yeah, I was.
Sorry, I didn't dive too deep. I just there's a lot of changes happening in our industry. And I feel like 90% of the people who run brokerages these days haven't been in production in more than 10 years. They don't know what we're seeing every day. They don't know what we're dealing with. They're not actually having to compete hands-on against Zillow, Opendoor, the iBuyer type companies out there. And so the brokerages are just staying stagnant. And, it's science. The organism that doesn't evolve dies. And I don't want to be a part of that.
And I'm so happy you shared that, because that's a whole other perspective that even personally that I haven't experienced, right? Just because with my past experience, everyone was in production. So thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure that's a lot of what a lot of other agents can resonate with, of being at a brokerage where their broker doesn't get back to them, doesn't answer them, or doesn't even know how to pivot or go against Zillow and Opendoor. So Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and Jacob, when you're bringing that up, one of the things we talk a lot about is when organizations in the real estate industry can take a look at their PPP, their per person productivity, when organizations can really peel the layers back and see what are the newer agents experiencing, what are the agents that are in the midline of their career and reaching up to their next level, and then even our seasoned agents. So you bring up a really valuable point is success leaves clues. And when we get to come together and collaborate, Ben and I were just actually in a meeting with about 20 agents here locally in Orlando, and we all came together, collaboration over competition. And we're all sharing what we've seen in the last 3 to 6 months, what we've seen in the last 12 months, where that's bringing us in the next 12 months. This is exactly what you're talking about, is Ben, that room we were just in, everybody was in production and they're all sharing their playbooks. So I love the insight, Jacob. Good stuff. How are you feeling that your partnership with eXp Realty is most enhancing your business?
That's a tough question for me, just because I'm still kind of figuring out all the tools that are available to me. And making the transition this time of year, where I feel like I'm kind of in a point where I feel like we're all kind of at the point where we're wrapping up our summer business and trying to get every last deal before we go into that kind of lull of the market going into winter, that I haven't dived too deep into everything that's available. So I don't know that I can answer that very well. I can say that I do love the fact that eXp is providing proven systems to me, as far as rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and come up with their own software and technology, they're implementing KV Core, they're using SkySlope, they're using industry standards that have already proven themselves, whether it costs more money or not. We're doing what works without trying to reinvent the wheel and causing more problems for the brokers. I know my previous brokerage, that was one thing that was very frustrating, was that, we had this amazing system that was, going to be built for us, and it was going to be, for client retention, you guys all know what I'm talking about, KW Command. I love KW, but the command system is an absolute joke, and it has been since its inception. The idea is great, but they're not a tech company, they're a real estate company. And that's one thing that I do like about eXp is, like I said, they're partnering with companies that already exist, have already built the programs. They're buying companies that already exist and just taking over the programs, which I'm fine with that as well. They're doing things that are making my business easier, not harder. And that goes a long way towards saving me time, money, and getting back to work.
That's a really great insight. And it put me in mind to the acquisition to Showcase IDX, right? That's a perfect example, is when eXp World Holdings acquired Showcase IDX, and where Glenn has shared the vision and the direction of that acquisition is going to elevate our company. It's smart. It's what I've found almost in 4 years. And Ben, you're over 3 years now, right?
Yep. Just celebrated.
Yep. So what I've seen is that you're exactly on the money, Jacob, is that there's so much value in understanding when we can shorten the path from A to B, and then it helps the trajectory of growth that all of the agents are experiencing, then we should definitely lean into that, right? And so there's times when we want to reinvent the wheel, but let's face it, if we can gain this success and reach to greatness that we're looking to reach to without reinventing the wheel, well, then that's called efficiency.
And I personally have no doubt in my mind that eXp probably has quite a few things on the back burner as far as coming up with their own software, bringing out their own technologies. But what I respect is that they're not forcing those technologies on the brokers and agents before they're ready. We're continuing to use SkySlope, KV Core, the existing programs. We're not saying, okay, now mandatory transition, we're going to, shake up your business and cause headaches for you and your transaction coordinators and your office managers and more stress in your lives before we're actually ready to release the program.
I think the brokerage maintains that mentality of being agile in the sense of how we are reiterating on our technology, implementing new software, but also making an agile approach to our agents, like you said, where we're not holding you captive to using certain systems and programs, right? We've had other teams on board with other CRMs that eXp doesn't provide, right? And you can still use those tools and systems that you are familiar with as an agent. while you take your time to transition over to, even if you want to transition over to the tools and resources that eXp provides. And so I've heard of other agents at other brokerages actually being held captive by the broker's CRM because they don't even know, like, how do I get my data out, right? How can I get my database out of this CRM that my other brokerage controls that I don't own and move it? Whereas at eXp, like KV Core, for instance, right? That's all your access as an agent. Yes, eXp pays for it and provides it to you, but you want to export everything? That's 2 clicks away, and you can go move it to whatever platform you want.
Well, I know you and I, Ben, we talked a lot about, building up to my transition, about me getting all my ducks in a row, and I had X, Y, Z, things that had to get done before I could, finally do it and hit the button to change everything. And that was on my list of things to do, is I had to log into my existing CRM and make sure I downloaded all my clientele and my contact information, because unfortunately, by being pushed into having to use their system, the day I gave notice that I was switching my license, all of my access to that was revoked. So I had to have all of that done before I could actually move, like even vocalize that I was considering making changes.
And that agent choice is so present in eXp. And I can attest to that too for the last 4 years, is it's whether we talk about affiliated services, whether we talk about systems, processes, the assets that we receive at eXp Realty, there is a clear culture at eXp that we should all get to utilize what's most important to us in our business. And even look at the affiliated services, relationships come first always, right? And so we get to choose as individual business owners. And I love that Glenn and leadership, they always remind us, agent success obsessed. Well, the agents are the ones in the field doing the heavy lifting. And so we are always put first. And I see that today just as clearly as I saw that 4 years ago when I came on board. And I'm so excited, Jacob, that you are seeing that same experience, even as you're just entering into the brokerage. It's really exciting.
It's been great so far.
I love it. And you had touched on the 2 states. So you're licensed in 2 states, and you brought up a really valuable reminder is at eXp Realty for agents that are licensed in 2 states. What does that mean? Why is that a big value add for you?
So, the big value add for me was that, and don't get me wrong. So as far as like with my previous brokerage being here locally, I could work this side of the river and which is the Portland side, and I could work the Vancouver side of the river under the one brokerage, under the one cap. But it gave me kind of a radius. And unfortunately, not that I'm not one of those agents who feels like I can work anywhere and, I'll go work in 5 hours away where I don't know the market whatsoever. Like I don't do that. But I know the Seattle market very well. I spend a lot of time up there. I've got friends and family that reach out often for, we're going to buy, we're going to sell, we want to use you. And that became one of my issues was that, well, because that was outside of this radius zone, I actually had to hang my Washington license at a Seattle office, at which point I was paying 2 caps, 2 franchise fees. So basically I was paying $18,500 a year locally in cap, plus a $6,000 franchise fee for any deals I was doing up in the Seattle area. I then had to do that again. So well over $20,000 additional a year. Whereas switching over to eXp, the biggest no-brainer for me was the fact that right off the bat, only paying that 1 cap nationwide, I'm only paying my 1 cap, period. That's it. No extra charges. And that's a huge savings to put into my marketing, to put into expansion teams. Like the things
put into your pocket.
The things that you do with money are endless. So it was definitely a no-brainer.
And also that everything is managed in one backend system,
yes.
Right? So whether we look at enterprise or we look at SkySlope, right? You have one backend system that gives you the synergy and seamlessness to operate your business in multiple states. And of course the cost savings. But, I sometimes I think there's such a value in the efficiency alone that the cost savings is the gravy on top, right?
Yeah, no, not having to log into 2 different accounts to track my money, track what's coming in, things like that. Just having everything centrally located is absolutely, I always like to, think of a big transaction to it. What's your time worth an hour? If I have to spend 2 hours trying to track down my goals on whatever website we're using it, whatever brokerage is offering. That's so why would I give that up? I would much rather have it all centrally located and also have a savings.
You're speaking our language, right? Opportunity cost. And you mentioned that now twice, is whether it's driving all over the state, right? And understanding that that could have an opportunity cost and what's best for the customer. Are you the person that best specializes in that market? And then also just your time that you are saving now to operate your business with seamlessness. Huge value. I love your mindset around things. It's such a breath of fresh air to have you coming on board. All right. So what are you most excited about in your current business, Mr. Jacob?
That's a tough one because I feel like there's so many things. I feel like this transition has opened me up to not only grow my real estate business, but that also opens me up to I'm going to grow my own personal sales, which at some point is going to expand into a team, which opens me up into expanding outside of real estate and creating passive income other ways. I feel like there's an endless list of opportunity right now that I didn't feel like I had before because I was always worried about production and where the next deal is coming from. I don't feel like any brokerage has ever encouraged me to create a team and to take that even further, a team that I want to go away and start their own teams. Like I've never heard of a brokerage where I would be excited for my buyer's agents to be like, actually, we're going to move on and start our own teams. Because I can still get paid off that. I can still keep my income coming in. I don't have to take that big loss. It really just opens up avenues that I never saw in real estate before. And that's what excites me right now about my business.
Do you have?
Go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, do you have a goals set around those items for 2022? Since we're all entering almost the last quarter of 2021.
I am working on my business plan right now. Tentatively, the goal would be to bring on 2 agents by summer of next year. At which point that's going to help me to also hopefully generate some passive income by focusing a few things outside of real estate. I haven't kind of finalized what that looks like yet, but I do know that I think that's the goal for all of us, right? Some passive income to know that eventually we can step out of production and still live the lovely lifestyles we live.
Well, you're mentioning 2 agents by next summer. You're referencing as you build an internal team, right? Like anybody that's interested in connecting with Jacob in general to learn more about eXp, that can happen now. Yep. Today. You're referencing your team, and I love that. You touched on, you're so right, that there are many models in the real estate industry that team leaders or broker owners or whoever's heading up an organization might feel some friction when agents reach a certain production level, when they reach a certain point in their career and they say, okay, well, I want to break that glass ceiling, go to the next iteration of what my business looks like. I want to grow and elevate off of a team and become a strong individual agent. In many brokerage models or team models, that's actually friction for whomever's running it. And here at eXp, we celebrate that. We've had agents on our team in Orlando that have graduated off the team and are flourishing and soaring. And that's like high five moment. That's a proud moment. That's not a friction moment here. So it's really interesting to hear you share some thoughts on that.
I am going to challenge you, Jacob, because I think next summer is way too far away for you to start your team. Granted, I'm the kind of person who somehow built a 20-person team in like 6 months, which I don't really recommend that level of growth so rapidly, but I will highly recommend that you could definitely have 2 people on your team by January. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. I feel like, I adore you, but you and I have very different personalities. And the fact that you make a decision and you bite the bullet and you're done, whereas I have to overanalyze and overthink and plan. And especially with the team thing, like you and I have talked about this, Ben, I feel like part of my issue with the team comes from the fact that I started on a team. So I know the pains of being a buyer's agent. I know what didn't work on that team and the factors that led me to leaving the team. And I do understand, like, for me, I want to build it the right way, that my agents are not only happy and flourishing with me, but that they also don't feel the need to stay. Like, for me, that was one of my biggest struggles. The entire last year I was a buyer's agent. There was a lot of friction because I had outgrown my team, but out of loyalty, I didn't feel like I could leave that team, which actually hurt not only my business, but their business. And I just, like I said, there's a lot of factors that for me to build out a team, I know I want to do.
So let's peel back the layers on this team conversation for a minute, Jacob and Ben. So there's no right or wrong answer here, right? And so the really great thing foundationally is we're in a brokerage model and we broker our deals through a platform that encourages us all to take growth and what that means to us as individuals. Everybody's on a different growth roadmap and everybody can be on different trajectories. But what are your thoughts on teams look differently now today than they ever have in the real estate industry? Teams are not the team of yesterday, certainly not an eXp Realty, that it's stifling and that it means that it's not going to promote growth and that it means that agents have to be restricted within a team. Teams have changed. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how do we define team?
Yeah,
I'm going to both of you.
No, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like everyone can define teams differently at this point. I mean, a team really is shaped by its team leader and kind of their expectations set by, that they set forth. I know I definitely see teams that, they follow more of the showing assistant model where the team leader actually handles everything contract to close, and their, buyer's agents or showing assistants just handle showings. And as soon as it's ready to write, they move on to the broker. I know the team I was on, we handled everything from showings to closings. And I mean, I feel like there's a different model, and how you factor clients that are self-generated versus provided by the team, how that looks financially for people, being able to provide enough leads for your team, I feel like is a big struggle as well.
Well, and it's so I think the other thing for us all to remember is we can create teams with a lot of liberty of what a team might mean to us. My team is very different than Ben's team. They're both thriving and doing amazing, right? And it's having an environment and a platform to broker your deals through, like eXp Realty, that allows us as team leaders the liberty to create teams that are defined by what's most important to us and our agents. So I think one of the most common threads I see through all of eXp is that teams should be a place where agents can experience diversified business, multiple pipelines of business, multiple streams of income, and the ability to soar beyond any ceiling. And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
I think that brings up a good point. I mean, there's so many different ways to structure a team. Like, in the old days, there was really one team model, right, to really set it up. But especially at eXp, I mean, like Renee said, we have two very different teams that operate differently, but are both very successful. But I've seen other team models like the Alliance Group, which is a quasi team, but has support for the group of agents from only a transaction management standpoint and a training standpoint, but not a lead distribution standpoint, right? And then I know another team leader, his name is Chad, they're doing a whole separate type of team where they're just distributing leads and no other support by that, right? So it's fascinating to me, especially at eXp, because we've been built in such a way to let many different models of the team environment flourish, that you can have very, very different structures, which kind of leads me to think, there are certain questions that new team members or new agents should always be asking when they're interviewing teams, right? Because two teams are completely different, let alone, specifically for their culture and their vibe, but also what they stand for, what their mindset is, and the benefits and the costs are very different typically as well. So I'm kind of curious, like, what are some things that you guys think agents should be asking when they are interviewing teams? Like, what should they be looking out for? Because, Jacob, you were on not as such you were on a team in the past, which wasn't a positive experience. I was on 2 teams prior to joining eXp and learned how to not run a team properly. So, so that's, that all led to how I built my team my specific way. But what should agents consider when they're interviewing teams?
I'll go. You guys leaving it for me? All right. There's a lot of really critical questions. If I go right off the top of my head, I will say, is anyone considering a team realize that teams of today are very different? And one of the things you can do to identify how those differences will help you grow your business is asking the right questions. So for example, when someone is chatting with me about joining our team in Orlando, one of the things I want to make sure they are aware of is there are multiple pathways to success. And I think agents should ask this question: how is the team going to help me achieve the greatness I'm seeking to achieve? And it can be and should be identified with a roadmap of what 6 months looks like, 12 months looks like, 24 months, 36 and beyond, right? Micro, macro. So that candidate is understanding success leaves clues. Is there a roadmap that leads to the success that they're all experiencing? And then also for newer agents, I especially think now more than ever, is ask how the newer agents are doing. What is the health transactionally and from a business standpoint of the individual team members? PPP, per person productivity. For example, in Orlando, our team PPP is 7.2 million tracking in 2021. Big numbers. We're super proud of that. Understanding the organizational makeup and what they're going to experience and what that roadmap is critical. One more thing I'll share too is how many pathways are there? Because when someone talks to any one of us on this call, Jacob, Ben, or myself, we can talk about a team. We can also talk about coming on as an individual agent. We can talk about teams joining us and linking arms, right? Ben and I are not on the same team. We're in business together. We each have our own team. So is there a trajectory of growth that I can see beyond the moment I'm in right now? Yes. Show me those examples, I think is super important. That's your turn, Jacob.
Oh, it's my turn? Okay. No, I feel like you really summarized kind of what a good list of what, prospective teammates should be asking for. I think to take that a little bit further, important questions that I wish I would have known when I got started would be not only discussing, what do your team splits look like with the agent that you're going to be working under, but renegotiation. If I reach X production level, can I renegotiate my splits? What does my future look like here, and how is my, do I have the ability to change my financial situation, or am I stuck with my original contract? I feel like that's a really strong question people need to ask going into it, because I feel like most newer agents, like I said, this applies more to newer agents than seasoned agents. But I feel like a lot of people go into it thinking this is just the way it is, and they get stuck with this original contract that ends up hurting them in the end. So I think having those conversations up front is great. I would also talk about, let's see, like you said, the roadmap. I think one of the best things that the team I was ever on did is we had a 100-day plan, your first 100 days. What was the team going to do for you? What were the expectations of the new agent? What did they have to do to meet their goals? And how was the team going to support them? So I would always be looking for, what is the roadmap? What's the 100-day plan? What's the 6-month plan? However you want to set it up, but ask those questions. I think it's also important to ask about expectations and accountability. I feel like just the three of us probably all have very different methods of how we would handle expectations and accountability with buyer's agents or listing agents. Is it going to be, do I have to sit down for a weekly check-in, one-on-one, just going to talk and feel all the love? Or are we going to sit down and you're going to ask me out my goals and tell me what I did wrong? You need to find a team that's going to fit you personality-wise as well. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. If you have personalities that clash, that never works out well, at least in my experience. And one thing I also would always recommend asking as a new agent, in your contract, are you signing a non-compete? Because I have seen teams slip those in. And if you choose to leave the team, you can no longer sell or be a realtor in your immediate area for X number of months or even years.
What?
Okay, that's not happening now or here. I mean, here at this team.
No, I just
I'm just making sure everybody knows.
Team leaders are getting away with that? What?
So let's talk about that for just 1 second before we wrap here. Is eXp was founded on a very different principle. Glenn Sanford, our founder, really inspired so many of us to look at how we approach something like that. In that, first of all, at eXp, there's full transparency. Everybody has the same compensation model. Team leaders might set up something individually, right? And that's fine. A team leader can set up different comp plans based on the assets and resources that team leader might provide and above what eXp provides. But I love how Glenn has built this business that same comp plan, same split for everyone, whether they were newly licensed yesterday or they've transacted 300 plus, 400 plus million. Everyone is on the same comp plan with eXp. And from a perspective of non-compete, that may be, I've not heard of that. And if that's going on, I agree, ask that question, because there are models out there that will put some handcuffs on, right? And make sure that when there's a departure that it's complicated. Not going on, at least in our seat, then I know how you're running your business. You're not running your business like that either. Because if somebody decides to part ways, it should just be grateful for the time we had, right? And I look at that regardless of where I came from, it's the same way. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for the journey that brought me to this moment right now on this call. So I'm grateful for everything that led up to this moment, including my previous locations.
Personally, I found out about my non-compete after the fact. I didn't even realize I had signed it. Luckily, by reading through it, when I had left the team, my non-compete was only good for 2 years, and I had been on the team longer than that. So it wasn't valid. But yes, I made that mistake. I signed a non-compete contract when I joined the team.
Wow. That's crazy.
Tough. Well, any parting words before we wrap, gentlemen?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm grateful you could join us, Jacob, and grateful you could join. I think this is just another indication of the show, of the collaboration of eXp, because you are literally based on the other side of the United States.
Yeah, about as far away from you guys as we can get right now.
Yeah, and now we're in partnership together, so that's so freaking cool. So I love it.
Well, no geographic boundaries to be concerned about. We can grow our organizations and create business opportunities globally now, right? So whether you are looking to partner with Jacob from a team perspective or individual agents or other team leaders, it all can happen right now. We don't have those boundaries, Jacob.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Jacob, we're so incredibly proud to be in business with you. And thank you so much for sharing time with us today.
No, thank you both. Enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Ben Lobby, you're the best.
Thank you, Renee.
Appreciate you.
You too.
Bye, gentlemen. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and stay tuned for more Fridays with the Fun Collection live. We'll be back next week, 11 a.m. Eastern. Make it a great day.